Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this week. And what a week it has been. Oh boy. I gotta say, I was expecting it to be a slow news week because had Canada Day up here, 4th of July down there, but it's the Trump cycle. What can I say? There is plenty of news. So we got lots of news to cover today. We also got a couple of the little announcements. First, right off the bat, I'm going to let you guys know subscriber sponsored video is back by, I think it was JJ last week requested that I bring it back. So it is back. The bot will tell us all about it as we go. But in a nutshell, if you're looking to have a video made, you want a particular video, this is where you can take 100% control. So you want a deep dive on your favorite stock. You want me to do a specific list. This is your chance to get it done. The way it works is if somebody provides basically the first person who does a $20 super and lets me know in the super what they want, they're going to get it. So that will actually video. I think the 18th. The 18th, I think, is when I have it tentatively scheduled. One day after another thing that's going to happen. So one last thing though, before we put to bed the subscriber sponsored video, is the only stipulation on it. Oh, there we go. Nightbot's in here. There we go. I was doing your job, Nightbot. You're getting very lazy. The only stipulation is that it can't be, if you want a deep dive, it can't be a penny stock, and it has to have had history. Quite literally, in one of the previous ones, somebody gave me a penny stock that quite literally had only been around for like about a month, maybe not even a month. So I had nothing to go on. That was probably the most difficult deep dive to ever do. So has to have at least, I'll say at very least a year history. But anyway, the day before the subscriber sponsored video, if we have one, if we don't, then we don't. The 17th, we've got a new thing that we're going to do. It is a live stream, but it's not a typical live stream. But it's going to be from 4 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. It's a 1 hour block, and it's called This Week Conversations. So basically, when I get my hands on a guest, somebody who I think would be fun to talk to in a live, I'm going to do these conversations. So I don't know how frequently they'll be. It might be that I do one and the next one may be 6 months away. Who knows? Or could be a month away. It really depends on what opportunities are going to happen. Now, I want to kick it off with a really good guest. So for our very first episode, so not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, we got Brandon Beavis joining us for the hour. So it'll be me, Brandon Beavis, and we're going to talk about, obviously, we're probably going to talk about some Blossom. We're going to talk about some ETFs. And we'll definitely take some questions as well. It's going to be fantastic. So mark that one on your calendar. That to me is one of the do not miss. It's a do not miss one for sure. So that is, once again, the 17th of July, 4 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. And this one, any of the ones I have in the new conversation series are going to be exactly 1 hour. We might bleed a tiny bit past it, but not much. So these are going to be one of those ones that we're going to get in, and we're going to try to get a bunch of quality really fast from our guest. So I'm looking forward to it. Once again, 17th of July. All right. Whew, holy banana bread. All right. Now, guys, we had a lot of interesting news this week. We're going to jump immediately into our first story. I like to get the first story out of the way right off the top of the hour. And we're talking about, the Canadian dollar. We had quite a rebound for the Canadian dollar. So on Thursday, The Canadian dollar, it rallied to its strongest level since, well, June 17th, trading around $73.75 USD. That's absolutely fantastic. It's good to see it. But here's the question. What caused our dollar to jump? I mean, our dollar had been struggling. We've been, for the longest time, we've been well beneath 70 cents. Well, we can thank the U.S. for this. First of all, we had some U.S. jobs data that dropped. So initially on Wednesday, ADP. Now they're basically a big employment company. They dropped their employment data, and they basically dropped about 33,000 jobs, and so that did not look good. But mind you, that's within ADP. Okay, so it's pretty much the biggest job agency in the United States. We also have them up here in Canada, but it's not representative of everything. So Thursday, we then did have the real job numbers drop, and they actually weren't that bad. They increased by 147,000, which did beat expectations. Also, amazingly enough, I don't know how the US pulled this off, but their unemployment actually dropped. It dropped down to 4.1%, which was also better than expected. I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how it happened, but it did. It did. So we got to love it. Now, initially, the job data, it did boost the US dollar initially, but then it didn't take long for that price to fall back to earth, and it did pretty fast. As a lot of the currency investors, well, some of them were like, you know what? This is a rare chance to take some profits. So a lot of currency investors took profits. That helped bring the dollar back down pretty darn fast. Now, in addition to that, there was also on that US dollar quite a bit of market pressure, thanks, of course, to concerns over the whole US debt level. And as you know, the big, beautiful bill got passed into law. So that it's going to be adding more, roughly at least $2 trillion to the overall U.S. debt, and it's not good. So there's a little bit of worry about that as well, and people are looking forward, not forward, but they're looking as in looking forward, not as in they're happy about it. They're looking forward to what's going to happen here on Wednesday. Oh boy. And that's when, of course, we find out what's going to happen next in the continuing saga of tariff drama. So we'll have to see how that's all going to work out. And also, in addition to that, with this strong jobs data, it might have put the nail in the coffin of any potential rate cut from the Fed this month. So there's that as well. Now, on the Canadian side, we did have one good positive stimulus for the Canadian dollar, and that's, well, we're seeing improved trade figures. So we're getting narrowing deficit and export growth, particularly, well, gold. Gold has been kind of a bit of a hero, as it has really been helping to support that loonie quite a bit. So, oh boy, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. What can I say? It's going to be interesting. All right, very quickly, let's get into the chat. I want to catch up with you guys. Bismarcky, first in the house. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all enjoying this beautiful weather. It is humid here in Ottawa. It is absolutely, well, here I am. I've got my iced coffee. I got a straw. It's so hard to drink iced coffee without a straw. So I have my iced coffee to try to keep things cool. We did have a little bit, well, we didn't have any thunder. We had a pretty intense rain burst probably about a couple hours ago, but it's still pretty humid. Mario says, good afternoon, everybody. And we got the Nightbot talking about the subscriber sponsored video. So yes, that is available if anybody does want it. Roku, there we go. Roku says, happy steamy Sunday all. Yeah, Well, Roku is in Stittsville, and those of you who do not know where Stittsville is, well, it's kind of in the it's kind of I don't want to call it a suburb of Ottawa. It's its own little town, I guess, but it's just outside of Ottawa. It's if you know where the Ottawa Senators play in Bell's Corner, that's a hop, skip, and a jump over there to Stittsville. All right, Danielle says, hello, Candace, and happy Sunday. What kind of week are you expecting for the market? Oh, I think this week is going to be very interesting, and it may not be in the way that you're thinking. So we do have a few things going on. Obviously, we got the whole retaliatory tariffs that have been put on pause. Well, they were put on pause until July 9th. That's coming off. So we have that, and we're going to talk a bit more about that as we get through the news. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And, will we get a dip? That's going to be a big theme. We will absolutely look at that. Rory says, hi, all. We are under a thunderstorm watch. Ping pong. Oh, my God. Yeah. Now, we don't get hail quite that big here. Oh, my gosh. There we go. We don't get hail that big here. But I'll tell you, I know in the West they do. Calgary's like absolutely famous for some of the big hail. And sometimes you can actually get car deals in Calgary because they're selling them cheap because of hail damage. So, but that's I think right along the Rockies there, with Calgary kind of sitting in the middle, is what we would call hailstone alleys. So they get a lot. All right. Prairie is in the house with a good afternoon, investing community. Happy Sunday. Excited to make it to another live stream. It's been a busy start to the summer. Oh, I can imagine. Absolutely. Yeah, and you know what? This summer, it is overall predicted to be pretty darn hot. So get used to the heat for sure. Lisa says, hi, everyone. Are you all keeping cool? Trying to. Jack's in the house with a good afternoon. Bismarcky says, unemployment dropped due to all the deportations. Well, it probably helped. That probably helped. And I've heard some crazy, like ICE has been up to it this week again. One of the crazy things that I heard is Jake Paul was boxing apparently against a Mexican boxer. Now, I've only heard kind of the periphery of the story. But I heard ICE got the boxer afterwards and looking to deport him. So I don't know if he was living in the U.S. or if he. Initially, it sounded like he came up to play, and he's just, instead of letting him go. I just don't know. I don't know what's happening there, but I was just like looking at it and going, that's kind of crazy. Mary is in the house with a happy Sunday, and guys, Mary's in the house. That means you gots to hit the like button, because Mary's that official captain of the like button, and she can get a little testy if you don't hit that button. Oh, that's so good. All right, Jack says, anyone own Toyota Motors TM? I think it looks pretty undervalued. I personally don't. I'll tell you right now. Until we get a resolution to these auto tariffs, I am, and Toyota doesn't really, Toyota, that it's a different story. They're not really being impacted as much, but I'm kind of a little bit afraid of the automotive sector for a bit. So I'm kind of hesitant. I'm hesitant. I'll leave it there. Happy Sunday, everyone, says Dorpat. And let's see, Lisa says, I wish it would rain here. It's so dry. My garden needs a good soak. Oh, yeah. Like right now, it's there's no sign of rain anymore. But I mean, it was downpouring for about probably 20 minutes. Now tomorrow it's going to rain the whole day, apparently. All right, let's see. Taco has moved tariff deadline to August 1st again. What's happening is on the 7th, on the 9th, he's letting the countries know what they're going to pay. and then those tariffs will begin on the 1st. So you're still getting all of the numbers. The numbers are dropping. Now, here's the funny thing. I don't even know yet how this is going to be set up, because there's been talk that he's going to give the countries letters. So we'll have to see how this is all going to come out. But I think there's that potential of a very interesting day on on the 9th. So that's what, Wednesday. Taco, taco, taco. Calgary Red Deer Drumheller Triangle of Hail. Yep, there we go. Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to think of a way of I can't think of an acronym or something we could make it to sound like the Bermuda Triangle, but yeah. Drumheller looks like Mars then. Yeah, Drumheller. If you've never been to Drumheller, so that's in Alberta. It's where we got Dinosaur Provincial Park. The type of erosion that's happened here has created things like they're called hoodoos. So hoodoos are kind of like those big, almost like pillars of rock with bare rock sitting on top of them, and it looks kind of alien there. Like, if I was going to film an indie film and have part of it take place on another planet, that would be a good setting. I could do that. And Chad says, howdy all. Rory says, all those dang dinosaurs running around Drumheller eating the plants. That's it. That's what happens if you don't have enough. Meat eaters, right? The carnivores. If you don't the herbivores. They get out of control. And you end up with a place looking like Drumheller for sure. All right. And Jack says Drumheller does look like Mars from Google Maps. Yeah, I can believe that. Holy banana bread. Oh well, what can I say? All right. We got another story. That's what I can say. I could say we got another story. So, ER closures. ER closures is being they're actually a lot more widespread than I think a lot of people think about, and they've been increasing. So since 2019, at least 34% of Canadian ERs have experienced temporary or long-term closures, mostly nights and weekends. So you know what? If you want to get injured, try not to do it at night or on the weekend. Now, collectively, Canadian ERs, they have closed for, this is a huge number, 1.14 million hours since 2019. So you use basic math, that breaks down to 47,500 days. Now, this is mostly because some of you guys, if you're living in the big cities, you're like, I don't know, I've never noticed any closures. Well, it's more of a rural problem. This tends to be a lot more rural. So Manitoba, 70% of ERs in Manitoba have had closures. Next worst, Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia has had 66% of their ERs experience closures. And sorry, Chad. Number 3, Saskatchewan. 57% of ERs in Saskatchewan have experienced closures. And this is not good. I mean, I guess it really began during the pandemic. The pandemic, there was a lot of long-standing staffing shortages. In a way, it just got worse. It got worse after the pandemic. So many rural hospitals, because of the pandemic and all of the pressure from that, they lost a lot of staff to burnout, retirement. Some of them reduced hours. It just, it's not good. It's not good. Now, normally hospitals, they rely on, pretty much expensive short-term hospitals and private agency nurses. And that's just, we're looking at, just for some of these people, it's like $3,000 for an 8-hour ER shift. And right now, they're just not. They don't have anybody. They've got the people for the daytimes. It's mostly, like I said, it's weekend and night. Some people are just like, there's not much they can do. So what are the provinces doing? So some provinces have reduced reported closures by, by converting their ERs into something called urgent care centers. So Nova Scotia, for example, they've turned 9 ERs into clinics with no ambulances. So that helps take off some of the pressure. Newfoundland has actually increased the use of virtual ER care with doctors only available remotely. So I don't know how much. I mean, there's got to be. I'm just sort of thinking about it. I'm like, if it's an emergency, I don't know how useful a remote doctor could be. But well, hopefully there's at least nurses that can follow the doctor's orders, I guess. So some towns, so Rivière Rouge in Quebec, they actually went to court to stop the ER nighttime closures, and they paired local volunteer support with immigration to help recruit doctors. And that's one of the things I've been saying, like with immigration, those are the people we want to be. We want healthcare immigrants, doctors, nurses, lab technicians, you name it. Let's get them over here. Let's get them certified. Let's give them any little extra training they need, because this is a real issue. It's not going away. Now, longer drives. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Manitoba. So in Manitoba, some communities have saw ERs closed 80 to 90% of the year, and that's been forcing patients to drive more than an hour just to find the next open hospital. And that's not really a good thing. One of the other issues we have about that with this is that we don't have a lot of tracking of what's been going on nationally. So we kind of lack a national database on ER service disruptions. So our data, for the most part, it is pretty darn patchy. And a lot of times, the only way you can sort of piece it together is with a whole bunch of freedom of information requests. Definitely not a good thing at all. Now, here's an interesting statistic for you. So right now, only 7% of physicians actually work in rural areas, despite the fact that, well, guess what? 18% of Canadians are living in rural areas. So this year actually dropped. So back in 1983, before we had any of these problems, 10% of doctors actually lived in rural areas, and that seemed to be a good number. But as I said, right now it's 7%. So what can I say? Now, some provinces are looking to try to create, just incentives to get doctors to work in rural areas. So, for example, things like large cash bonuses. Quebec, for example, they're focusing on integrating those immigrant health workers into the small towns. And that to me is a great idea. Like, if you do need to give them some extra training, give them some extra training, but the rules are, look, we'll pay for it, but you gotta go over here to Rimouski and be a family doctor there for a bit, and work out a term. I think that's really good. I think that's a really good plan. The bottom line, so when all is said and done, our rural ER crisis, it is absolutely deep-rooted. It was worsened by the pandemic, and now partly hidden by converting ERs into clinics and limiting hours. And we need that national system to let us see the big picture. That's something I think that we definitely need. And we need a little bit of a solution. There should be no excuse if somebody dies because the ER is way too far away. That's crazy. So we definitely need to see some kind of a resolution. We need to see changes. What can I say? All right. Mario says, after your 0 to 100,000 or 100K, I finally picked up some HHIS and MSTY. Well, there you go. Yeah, you're getting some dividends flowing, for sure. MC says, hi, Too hot to fish. So here I am, a little late. I love it. I didn't know it could be too hot to fish, though. Well, I mean, as long as like if you have shade, but oh well, yeah, too hot to fish. That's darn hot. That's darn hot for sure. Bleak is in the house with a hi all. And the Nightbot in there talking about the subscriber sponsored video that is available once again. Rory says, so if you live in Dog River, you have to rush to Moose Jaw in an ER emergency. Holy cow. Yeah, it's like, it's like, sorry, you live in the wrong animal. We don't do dogs, we do mooses. Oh boy, yeah, not good. Jack says, we can send money to Ukraine and subsidize green energy companies. Yes, I know. I know. Let's see. Navi says, most of my cousins are doctors, are from the East Indian background. They always tell me that nobody wants to work in small towns because it's not the life they want to live. It's sad to listen to this. Yeah. I mean, the big towns have all the flash. But here's the thing, and this is kind of this thing. You can get, even now in small towns, you can get so much more than you could before. I mean, Amazon pretty much will deliver anywhere. Not like I'm saying you should be always throwing all your money at US, but there's ways. You can get pretty much anything nowadays. It's just one of those things, like, I don't know. I'm okay with a small town. I mean, I live in Ottawa. It's a small city. Well, it's kind of a small, almost big city. It's kind of big, yeah. I've got no legs to stand on this one. I got no legs at all. And the Nightbot, boy, what type of the Nightbot's coming in really fast, really fast. Oh well, what can I say? And let's see, Rory says, whoops, actually, sorry, Rory is about to say, but before he does, Jack says, the big cities suck now anyways compared to 15 years ago. Small town living is the only way to live in Canada now. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it is so expensive to live in a big city. If you can work remotely, why wouldn't you want to live in a smaller community? Get yourself a little bit of a break on all of the prices of rent and just the general cost of living, rent, property taxes. Holy banana bread. It's expensive to live in a big city. So I think you're on to something, Jack. I think you're on to something. Rory says, everyone knows everyone in a small town. You do something and the whole place knows about it. And that's probably true. Well, it depends. I mean, it depends. I'm sure you could keep some things to yourself, hopefully. But yeah, good old small towns. What can I say? Holy banana bread. Let's talk about Trump. Shall we talk about Trump on July 9th? Oh boy. He's ready. He's ready. So as we mentioned before, this is the end of that 90-day deadline for major trading partners to strike deals or to face, well, some pretty heavy tariffs. And he's throwing some big numbers out there. Like he said that, 10% to 10 to 20% is going to be most countries. Other countries that have really treated the U.S. badly could be looking at, things like 70%, 80%. We're absolutely looking at some really, really interesting numbers. We'll just put it that way. So for now, though, markets, honestly, they don't know what's coming next. A delay, a pause, brand new tariffs. No one really knows until the day gets here. We're not going to have that answer. Now, right now, and this is kind of the interesting thing, stocks are up. Global stocks right now are up 11% since Trump's initial tariff threats back on April 2nd. So yeah, stocks are kind of doing pretty well. Although there is one concern for non-US investors, that would include us. A weak US dollar can be a little bit of an issue if you're investing in American stocks, because even though they're going up, part of that is not entirely real. It's part of it is, a reflection of that weak US dollar. So returns, when you look at it that way, when you take that into consideration, returns they're still kind of below some of their earlier peaks. And, especially if you're looking at them from a euro perspective, or a French franc, or not a guy named Frank smoking a cigarette. We're talking the French dollar, or a pound, or I guess in this case, a Canadian dollar. So since the first half of 2025, speaking of that American dollar, their dollar actually fell 11%. So it's actually the worst it's been since 1973. So since April 2nd, it's down 6.6%. What can I say? That's a lot. And it has absolutely hit the euro, the peso, and the loonie the hardest out of the three, well, at least out of those currencies. The US, a lot of it is as I mentioned before, all of the debt fear, that whole big beautiful bill, and all that money being dumped in there. Also, as well, in addition to, of course, debt fears, we got all kinds of policy uncertainties that are weighing on the dollar. Now, many countries are sitting back right now, not doing anything. They're kind of waiting. And a lot of them are praying hard that they're only going to get hit with that 10% tariff, because I think most countries are ready to absorb that into their economies. And that would be fine. That would be, at least we're moving away, right? 10%. Great. However, if Trump starts pushing a lot of these tariffs up past 20%, 20%, 30%, 40 or 50, oh boy, it could absolutely begin to rattle a lot of global stocks. But there is one thing out there. There's one thing out there ready to win the day. And that, well, all that glitters, yep, it's gold. It's currently up 26% year to date. So we're sitting around $3,330 per ounce. And it's been breaking records, and it's expected to continue to go up higher, which is fantastic, I guess. Now, it has been boosted by, a few things have helped. Tariff risks, geopolitical fears, weak USD, central bank and funds are buying gold like crazy. So that is absolutely helping. In fact, it's outperformed Bitcoin this year by 14%, and it's also outperformed NVIDIA by 18%. So those of you who have been sitting on gold this year, you're laughing. Now, mind you, I do still think Bitcoin has some gas in the tank, and we could see a major pump. If that happens, gold may not still hold that claim. But for now, they do, absolutely. Now, a UBS survey, 39% of fund managers are planning to add more gold to their portfolios. So that's up 15% since last year. So bottom line, so when we boil this all down, Trump's tariff brinkmanship, I guess we'll call it that, it's created a bizarre mix of booming stocks, plunging dollar, and record gold prices, with global investors bracing for anything from a last-minute compromise to, well, even bigger tariffs. We'll have to see what's going to happen. I will point out, though, one of, like the 90-day pause, it may not impact Canada directly. Most of our tariffs were done outside of that big group on the day. Well, on that board. We weren't even on that board. So it may not directly impact Canada, but it could be still enough to drive that market down. So we could see a very interesting day. Now, if you are looking for a dip, if you're looking for a buying opportunity as big as Liberation Day, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. I think we'll see a dip on the 9th, but I don't think it's going to be anything as big as what we saw on Liberation Day. So I think it'll be a milder dip, but there could still be good buying opportunities, good opportunities to average down. So just keep that in mind. All right, back to the chat. Navi says they should give doctors more tax breaks for working in small towns. This might help with the problem. I would be okay with that. Whatever incentive it takes, if we can solve this, and if it sort of keeps people from dying, yeah, let's do it. Chad says I was going to say Moots. Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan is 9 minute hour is a minute 9 hour wait unless you're bleeding out or say you have chest pains. Ridiculous wait times. Yeah, absolutely. I imagine there are people who go to the hospital or go to the ER and take an ambulance and perhaps pretend it's worse than it really is just to sort of get past the line. I imagine there's people that do that. Mind you, I don't think I would do that, but I think there's probably people who do. Let's see, that's true all over Saskatchewan. Hospitals, Canada 60% plus. Oh boy, yeah. Let's see, Mary says, and in Toronto, yeah. Toronto has the population to justify the waiting, as Saskatchewan population is like 1.2 million. There we go. All right, subscriber sponsored thing. There we go. Bismarcky, I'm hoping the U.S. goes to parity again, just like it did during the financial crisis. That would be interesting. I don't think it would be good for our economy, but it would definitely be interesting to see how it's all going to roll out. Like, I'm happy. I would be, for me, I honestly think around 75 cents. I think that's a nice amount. No more than 80. If it sort of waged between 75 and 80, I think that would be good for overall for Canada. Rory says, RIP to all the lost in the Texas flood tragedy. Oh God, yeah, that's just, it's amazing that rain can do that much damage. But water is, unfortunately, when you're looking at natural disasters, when it involves water, that's when it does the worst damage. And I'm still hoping they find more people alive, but so far that has not been the trend. So yeah, absolutely. Oh boy. Chad says Regina has 2 hospitals and still like a 9-hour waiting times. Yike. Yeah. Now another problem too with ERs, Chad, now that you mention it, is that a lot of people, because they don't have a family doctor, a lot of people go to the ER for things that don't need to be at the ER. If you're going to the ER because, you think you might have fractured your foot, when your uncle drove over it. That could happen. Those are the type of things where you would go to like a family doctor or just an urgent care center. But there's a lot of things people are taking to the ERs that don't really need to be at the ER. And what does that do? That just creates a longer wait time for people with legitimate emergencies. Let's see, if the US goes to parity, I might buy some. Withholding tax is my worry because it's 15 cents, 15% now, but it will increase. No, it won't. This is the good news. If you guys missed this, and a lot of people probably did, with the big, beautiful bill, the withholding tax that was going to be increased, that was Section 899. It was removed in the Senate. The Senate removed that. So that part is gone. So there is no changes to withholding tax. So you're good. You're good. That part is staying the same. I love that. I love that. All right. Good old Nightbot. Hey there. Bill says the big beautiful bill doesn't contain any increases to with. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Bill said it as well. Yeah, exactly. So the big beautiful bill doesn't contain any increases to withholding tax for Canadians. They had to remove that to help get enough votes to pass. Yeah, absolutely. That was a really bad part of legislation. So absolutely. Here we go. All right. Chad says Bitcoin will hit 200K USD by the end of the year. Um, I can't say no. I can't say no. Um, I'm I've been predicting a 120,000 Bitcoin as what I thought would be the high, but the way things are going right now, I think 150 might even be more reasonable. And if things go really, really well, Chad could be Chad, you may be very happy. For sure. Doorpat. What if Canada and the US form NAROP, where we use the same currency? It doesn't have to be called that, by the way. If Trump wants access to Canada's resources, that would be my bargain. I'm actually for that. I heard of it. I heard Americo or Amero, or I think that was the name of the coin or something. That would be kind of a thing. But yeah, no, I think a block. So sort of a U.S. and economic merger of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I think Mexico should be in that too. I think that would make a lot of sense. You would have one. Well, you would have technically, 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 it'd be just kind of like we'd have a new currency. So there'd be one currency for the three countries, and then you could probably still have local currencies too. Keep in mind, not that long ago, there used to be a time when the banks in Canada each had their own currency in addition to the Canadian dollar. So, for example, you could have a Bank of Nova Scotia dollar. It was like I think they phased those out. Was it like the 70s, 80s? But they used to exist. You could have multiple currencies. But yeah, no, I would be fine with that. The problem is, and this is kind of where I see the big issue. Trump came in with a club and tried to sort of come and say, hey, Canada, 51st state, you'd be cherished. We'd love it. Instead of, let's make a deal. If he had come in and proposed, what about an economic union? Maintain your sovereignty, but we'll create a system where we can have true free trade. We could also have free trade of people, moving people back and forth as needed. I think that would have been much more receptive. But now I think because of the situation and the corner that Trump has painted himself into in this whole Canada 51st state thing, I don't think he's going to be able to backtrack onto that. But you never know. You never know. It's going to be very interesting. Yeah, who the heck would buy USD over BTC or at least USD stocks? I know. I mean, Bitcoin has proven itself to be a very resilient investment for sure. Chad says, as Larry Fink wants to digitize the stock markets, interesting times we are facing. Yeah. No, these are. I think the rest of Trump's tenure is going to be very interesting. No matter what happens, no matter who steps in on the other side of this, I think politics in the United States has probably changed forever. Well, I mean, heck, you got Elon Musk coming out yesterday or the day before saying he's going to create the American Party. So a third party. He's got the money and the resources that he could potentially do it. Could you imagine if the United States became a three-party system? I don't think it's going to work, but if anybody could pull it off, maybe him and his followers. All right, let's see here. Bill says, Give doctors a massive tax break, spend 50% of their time in rural, only pay 50% of their nominal tax rate, move rural and practice 100% of the time, pay zero tax. Yeah, and here's the beautiful thing about this idea, Bill. A lot of doctors, like people see a doctor and they're like, oh, you must be absolutely rich. You're a doctor. Well, not necessarily. By the time most doctors get out of med school, they are up to their eyeballs in debt, student loan, just apps. So a lot of them are absolutely broke for years and years and years. Well, that's where the government can come in, right? If you're giving them some major tax breaks, maybe it's like maybe you could even go take it a step further. Imagine if you got a 50% tax break and no interest on your student loan while you're working in this rural place, in this rural town. So there's ways to do it. And you could get a lot of young doctors who might be like, well, gosh, this is the fastest way to get this debt monster under control. I think you'd get a lot of takers. I think you'd get a lot. MC says, I thought the ER and family doctor issue was a Quebec thing. From what I am hearing, everyone is a lot better in Ontario. I didn't know about the other provinces. Well, it's not. It's not. I think it's pretty widespread. So there are places. So I know Ontario, like at least depending on where you are. In Ottawa, if you move to Ottawa tomorrow and you wanted a family doctor, well, you can get on a list. And they'll once a year they'll reach out to you and let you know that you're still on the list. But it can take a long time to find a doctor. Some cities a little bit better, like in Toronto. If you sit down and just start calling clinic after clinic, you'll probably get one. But a lot of places it's really, really difficult. I know Nova Scotia. I couldn't find one in Nova Scotia. The closest I came is I went to one who was like, "Yeah, I'll take you as a patient." I came in and she turned out to be holistic. As soon as she started talking about, using special herbs and spices to fix my ailments, I was just like, okay, I think I'm going to pass. I think I'm a better doctor than you right now. It's just, yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. A Zyborg says, make Canadian Tire money the new petrodollar. I know. Funny story. I once tried to get on a bus with Canadian Tire money. The driver caught me. The driver caught me and says, "That's Canadian Tire money. That's not real. You can't." And I'm like, "Hey, come on. The bus needs like oil and WD-40 and stuff. Let me on." No go. Jackie says, unfortunately, Trump is a compulsive liar and cannot be trusted with any agreement. I'd be reluctant to have Canada give Trump access to our resources. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whatever kind of deal gets hammered out. Now, from what I'm hearing from people from the U.S. government, they still think there's a good chance that they'll, at the very least, they'll have a framework in place by July 21st. So we'll have to see what that looks like. But yeah, no, if the U.S. wants unfettered access to our to some of our critical minerals, well, that better be a good deal for Canada. Like quite literally, if they're going to get access to that, I don't want to see any tariffs, at all. Let's get rid of them. So, but it's going to be hard to see because Donald Trump loves tariffs. Like he really, really loves them. And he also doesn't like complicated solutions. Carney, I think, is the opposite. Not a fan of the tariff and loves those complicated solutions. We'll have to see how this is going to iron out. It's going to be interesting. Chad says, yeah, been in Saskatchewan since basically 2009 and never had a family doctor. Oh, wow. That's like crazy. That's more than a decade without a family doctor. And here's the thing. If Chad comes down with something, he might go to the emergency room if it's bad enough. But it may not be emergency bad. It might have been something you could have taken to a family doctor because, or unless, or oh boy, if you really want to have fun, brave a walk-in clinic. Oh, uh, yeah. Chances are, and this is the way I look at it. If you go to a walk-in clinic and you're mildly sick, you're probably going to pick something up while you're there. Um, if you don't get, if you have to go to a walk-in clinic, you want to show up there about an hour before they open. And you might think, an hour? Oh my God, I don't want to wait that long. Well, the reality is, if you show up after they open, you're probably waiting much longer. So just something to keep in mind. Trump is going to send Musk back to South Africa. Oh boy, that would be very interesting. That would absolutely be very, very interesting. MC says, my yes, Nightbot, I do not, or I do want to take control of a video. Yeah, there we go. Does Elon still have a Canadian citizenship? That's a good question. This I do not know. I do. Yeah, I've got no clue. I have no clue if he still has it. I think at one point he had a dual citizenship, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Elon back in Canada. He could go. He could go to. Yeah, he could go back to. What can I say? He could go back to South Africa. Yeah, we'll be fine with that. All right. Kelly. Watched your video on Canadian ETFs that pay dividends. Think they'll drop in price or continue to rise? Wait or just start? All right. So yeah, we did a video. I believe you're talking about the one from a couple of days ago. So here's the interesting thing about that video, guys. It's got a part 2 that's dropping on Tuesday. The channel members will be able to watch it tomorrow. But yeah, we're looking at we're basically looking at dividends. We're looking at ETFs that are not really losing their value, while at the same time pumping out some pretty high dividends. Some of them, now it's hard to sort of paint them all with the same brush. Some of them will absolutely go up in value. Some of them might struggle. So, for example, one of them in that video I think that you just watched was QQQ. Yeah, what was it? Yeah, my head is like, was it QQQY? Or no, it was QQCC. QQCC. There we go. I had to get back. I had to remember exactly what was in the video. Now that's a tech one. If tech continues to do well, and right now tech is kind of at that. I think they'll still do well until we see a bit of a flip in the market. So that one I think does have some potential that you're going to get some growth on it as well. But the thing is with that video, so these are your stable income ETFs. They're not their goal. So they're not a goal. There's no goal there to grow. Their goal is to stay above water. That's kind of the odd idea of that series, is that you're looking for ones that, because you're probably, hopefully you're using these as an income investor. And if they grow, great. That's like icing on the cake. But the big thing is that you're not losing value. We don't want them to be falling back. Now, with that being said, if we drop into a bear market, and that's definitely a possible thing later, yeah, they're going to go down. They're not going to, but they'll bounce back as well once we come out of it. That is something that will happen. It's just kind of the way that the markets work. Now, mind you, it's kind of hard to say when we're going to fully drop. Like if we get this situation where, let's say we do get a trade deal with the United States, there's a lot of economic damage, and we still could go into a very mild recession, but that wouldn't mean that we're going to go into a bear market, because right now the markets are they're defying logic. Like there's a lot of headwinds that sort of that have been saying we should be doing worse, but we're not. So it's going to be very interesting to sort of pay attention as we move along. But Yeah, the second one is coming out, and I'll tell you, with this video drop coming out on Tuesday, I did something neat. I updated the ones from the first video, and at the end of that video, I'm going to give you all 10 because the first one has 5. This new one, it's basically, I think I'm calling it more. So 5 more stable ETFs, income ETFs, sorry. And I'm going to give you the top 10. I'm going to re-rank them all together. Obviously, the ones from the first video are probably going to be more towards the top because, when I made that video, I wasn't planning to make a second video, but I was going through data and I was looking, I'm like, you know what? I still got 5 more that qualify in here. And let's take a look and let's see what we can do. So I think it's going to be good. All right. Chat says price of Bitcoin has been manipulated for the rich to get in, cheaper for the big, beautiful pump. It's getting harder to do that, though, Chad. I will say that it's getting harder. So in the past, when it didn't take much to manipulate the price of Bitcoin, a lot of times the whales, and a whale is somebody who owns, well, a lot of Bitcoin. They would sell a whole bunch of Bitcoin at the highs, causing the price to start falling. And once the price started falling, all of the regular consumer investors would be looking at that and going, "Oh my God, I got to get out," and that would drive the price lower even further. And then once the cycle had finished and it was at a bottom, those whales who sold at the top, they just come in and they scoop up a whole bunch of Bitcoin, and they end up with a lot more Bitcoin than they had initially, and then the price goes all back up. Unfortunately, a lot of those regular everyday investors, well, they ended up selling as they were coming down, and by the time things turn around and they realize it's going back up, it's already more expensive than when they sold it, and a lot of them will get back in anyway, and they've taken losses. So basically, they're transferring money from them to whales. The whales are just pulling money straight out of their pockets with that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, Rory says, Dr. Van Nostrand will be my new doctor. There we go. Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you didn't say it was Dr. Pepper, though, because that would be wrong. Chad says, Kelly, just DCA, never too late. Yeah, exactly. Get to the walk-in clinic early. Doorpat says, Tesla didn't dip as much as I expected. Yes. And that's the thing. And that's one of the problems with, I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of saying, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. The better word is not buy the dip, but DCA the dip. And that's probably a little bit better because you don't know when that dip is done. And it can turn around pretty darn fast. So, yeah, I like to DCA the dip for the most part. And let's see, chat says, I just out of province for medical attention. Bill my hometown province. There we go. Just send the bill to the mayor of your city. Jersky says, hello, happy Sunday, fun day. I'd like to see Elon Musk's TFSA. Yeah. Well, if he is a dual citizen, although the fact that he's living in the United States, so he wouldn't be permitted to put anything into it. But yeah, if he moves up, I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen though. Lisa says, what are your thoughts on Pepsi? I hold a position and I'm debating if I should add more while it's down so much. Yeah, Pepsi. I mean, it is blue chip. It is a good stock. I don't think it's a bad idea to dollar cost average while it's down. I haven't heard anything in the news recently that makes me think that they're in big trouble, but I do know that a lot of the cola companies, so Pepsi and Coke, they are doing a lot to reinvent themselves as well because, they're not as popular with the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas as as they are with the older generation. So I think there's going to be changes in there. As long as they keep innovating, they're probably going to be fine. And I think Pepsi will be fine. I think Pepsi and Coke are good staples. All right. Michael says, since Trump's new bill getting passed, that with new healthcare plans like CLOV could do better than it has 160 million in cash and no debt. In which other ways or companies that the bill will help? All right, interesting. I don't know if that's is that a question, Michael? I'm not sure. It reads like a statement, but you got a question mark at the end of it. Oh no, there's a should in there, I guess. Should do much. No, should do much better. No, it's a statement. It's a statement. That's fine. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. There's the good old Nightbot. All right. Informant says HR.UN jumped 17% Friday due to the announcement of buyout offers while U.S. markets closed. HRUF arbitrage play. It could be interesting. It could be interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but yeah, it could be. It could definitely be interesting. So we've already got the 17% jump. So that's the problem, right? Will it jump any further after that? There might be a little bit as the U.S. markets do open, so that might cause a little bit of impact. But it could also go in the other direction too. Yeah, I'd be a little careful with that. I know one of the ones I am watching this week, big time, is FTG. So that's the Fair and Technology Group, and you guys know I like that one. I am watching them because they've got earnings coming up, and I have a feeling they're going to be pretty good, pretty good. So there could be a swing opportunity there. So I'm kind of watching that. I'm watching that one for sure. All right, we're finally caught up again. We're finally caught up again. That means we can. Oh boy. That we got a story here on Canadian Autobots. No, wait a minute. No, it's no, it's not Autobots. It's automakers. But I couldn't resist. So yeah, automakers and Carney had a meeting. So and they are urging him to scrap some of these zero emission vehicle mandate. They want it gone. They want it gone. So he met with the CEOs of Ford, GM, Stellantis. This was in Ottawa, hence the reason that we got our Canadian version of the Transformers there in Ottawa in the picture. And basically, they do want to push for a repeal of Canada's zero emission vehicle mandate. And they're basically arguing. Their big argument is that the mandate is damaging and redundant, especially under the filter of trade war pressures. So what is this mandate? First of all, in case some of you guys may not know, basically these rules, they say that 20% of new vehicles sold have to be zero emission by 2016. So that's next year. By 2030, it has to be 60%. And by 2035, all cars have to be zero emission. Now, does that mean they all will? Not necessarily, because there are credits for exceeding targets, and investing in charging will get you credits, and then you can sell those credits to people who aren't hitting the targets, and they can use that to, to basically get them through the system, get them through it. But nonetheless, I don't think these targets are realistic personally. Last year, EVs made up basically 13.8% of sales. So yeah, it looked like we were, I wouldn't say it looks like we were on target, but that was quite a bit. But however, this year, in March, we dropped down year over year to 6.5%. So we're moving in the wrong direction. That's basically 45% down year over year. And why is this happening? Why are Canadians not catching on to EVs? Well, high costs, fewer incentives. A lot of the incentive programs that were in place are now gone. And we kind of got a sparse charging infrastructure. So there's no reason why anybody would want to have an EV under those circumstances. So with those incentives, Canada, we had incentives, but those rebates, they were well, they ended in January. Now the government has indicated they might reinstate them. That's fine. Quebec is phasing out its program of whatever incentives Quebec had, and Ontario, they canceled their incentives back in 2018. Add all of that, and you got a trade war going on. So, we're looking at 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, 25% tariffs on autos, 25% on goods outside of the USMCA. Well, other than a few items that are, like oil, gas, and potash at 10%. In addition to that, we have our own retaliatory audio tariffs. So it's not good. Auto part orders right now in Canada they're down between 25 and 33%. And that is big time hitting the production line. So not much we can do there. Not much we can do at all. Now, Honda, just to give you a general idea, Honda, they paused the $15 billion EV and battery project that they had planned for Ontario. Stellantis, they delayed production of the electric Dodge Charger down there in Windsor. Lisa knows all about that for sure. Ford scrapped their EV plans for Oakville, and they actually switched back to gas-powered pickups. So what can we say? Canada's automakers, they basically want Ottawa to ditch these aggressive EV targets. They're unrealistic. I agree, they're unrealistic. And given some of the slumping demand, lost incentives, trade tariffs, and costly new requirements, many plants right now are absolutely reconsidering their electric future. It's simply not going to happen. I think it needs to be repealed. We have heard there's been no word on what Carney plans to do with this, but they got the story to them. They got the story to them. Let's see how this all goes. Rory says Carney was booed by everyone at the Calgary Stampede. What else would they do, really? I actually saw a short with Pierre Poilievre talking about Carney at the pancake making and saying how he should be good at it because he's gotten pretty used to flipping and flopping with Donald Trump. I was like, oh boy, it was funny though. It was actually kind of amusing. All right, Michael says, let's see, Pfizer is better at getting new drugs approved that announced 0.43 dividend that made a 0.92 last earnings was 0.26 beat with last upgrade to 30,000. Getting a new drug approval is helping last earning. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I mean, Pfizer, I still think Pfizer has a bit of a rough road in front of them, only because, with the way things are going right now in the US when it comes to healthcare, oh boy. What can I say? Chad says, if BYD came to Canada, everyone would have one as they're 4 times cheaper than a Tesla and would destroy the competition. Yeah, there we go. I think that's the Chinese one, isn't it? All right, we got the Nightbot, and Steven says, BC Ferries is saying damaged EVs can't travel on boats, even on tow trucks. No recycling depots for them on the Gulf Islands or on Vancouver Island. Yeah, I mean, there's other issues too. Like, my understanding is that they're problematic at best in very cold temperatures. So Canada just may not be the best place for EV. I'm adamant that I think a way to go would be a hybrid. Have the EVs for when it is appropriate and have gasoline for when you need that. But that doesn't really address any safety issues. So, we'll have to see how this is all going to roll out. And Lisa's mentioning those EV chargers are a manufacturing nightmare. Rory would rather walk or bike to work. Yeah, why not? Oil and gas is not going anywhere. No, I agree, 100%, 100%. Well, as we're going to talk about a little bit later, liquefied natural gas is going somewhere. Michael says Pfizer heading back to $40. I hope so. I hope so. I'd like to see that. Rory says the World Economic Forum are the biggest hypocrites. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Now we're slowly getting through the news. We do have more though. we do have more noise. This poor guy. He's like, I don't want to say snoring. He's yawning. So Canadian exports to the United States. Oh boy, guys, they're down big time. And this should come as no surprise. So in May, Canadian exports to the U.S. dropped basically another 0.9%. It's the fourth straight monthly decline. The U.S. share of total Canadian exports fell to 68.3%. Now, a year ago, it was sitting at 75.9%. So this is one of the lowest proportions on record. We all know what's causing this, right? The good old trade war. It's driving the decline. And, that's been happening since pretty much February when Trump imposed stacked tariffs on some of our Canadian goods. And we, of course, have our counter tariffs as well, which is, I think we're getting hurt in both directions. So a new economic and security deal. It is targeted, like I said, for July 21st. But right now, until we have it, uncertainty is going to be hurting business plans for sure. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business, they have come out and said that many firms are in suspended animation. They're just simply unsure whether to expand, shrink, or even pause projects. So every month without a deal, it simply just adds more challenges. What can I say? Now, the government is trying to at least reduce reliance on U.S. trade by expanding ties with other countries. That's fantastic. You know what? Open up trade with as many countries as you can, because we are in that situation where you kind of, like, if you think about investing, right? You get a basket of stocks. So if one stock goes down, well, we kind of don't have that basket of exports. It's like, here you go. Here's the Canadian basket and a little tiny basket over there for the rest of the world. We need to equal that out a bit more so that when the U.S. does do has little temper tantrums like this one, then we're not in such bad shape. But I will say there is progress there, because in May, exports to non-U.S. countries, it jumped by 5.7%, and that was actually a record high. Now, what are we exporting? The three biggest exports. Well, not the three biggest, but the three biggest increases in exports. We've seen a big time increase in unwrought gold being sent to the UK. Makes sense. They're stacking it. They're getting ready for economic turmoil for sure. Singapore has absolutely been picking up a lot of Canadian crude oil, and Italy has been increasing their Canadian aluminum as well as our pharmaceuticals. So those are our three biggest increases. Now, Canada's global trade deficit, it actually shrank to 5.9 billion in May, down from a record of 7.6 billion in April, thanks, of course, to more exports and fewer imports. So it's looking, I was going to say it's looking good, but outlook-wise, I'd call it cautious optimism. That would be the better word. So the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, they're basically saying the worst may be behind us. I sure hope they're right. But right now, a lot of companies, they just can't quickly shift contracts between U.S. and other markets. So future policy shifts will be big time important as we move along here. Bottom line on this whole thing, the Canada-U.S. trade war it's driven exports to the U.S. to historic lows. We kind of knew that was happening. Pushing businesses, what are you going to do? You're going to diversify into those new global and of course, domestic markets. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. While there are signs of adjustment and a shrinking trade gap, Uncertainty around that July 21st trade deal is kind of keeping businesses a little bit on edge. So hopefully we'll get that. Hopefully we'll get that. But right now we're being a little bit cautious here. All right, we're going to talk about internal trade here in a moment, but let's get caught up with you guys in the chat first. We'll start. We'll get the Nightbot. We got Zyborg. EV mandate would put insane loads on electric grid distribution. Needs so many more power plants. Lots of copper. Yeah. No, our grid right now could not handle. Absolutely could not handle us all driving EVs. It's not going to happen. So good. Let's see. Yes, from China. Even Tesla is sourcing their batteries from Boyd because they won't explode, catch fire if crushed or pierced. Yeah, and that's the thing. We need a better, and there are some really good. I think China is working on some of these new technologies for batteries that are a lot less explosive. So yeah, we need a lot more of that, and we need to be building those things here. Because we've got all of those minerals. We got all those minerals. We could be building some really good batteries here. Lord Ostrich says battery technology and energy infrastructure isn't developed enough for the in mass rollout of electric vehicles. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about. And Rory says, I'm just waiting for the Donald to throw another fit about something or someone. You probably won't have to wait long. It's like, hey, did he do it yet today? If he hasn't, you probably still have a chance. All right, let's get our graphic for the next story. All right. Those of you who, if you don't know what the LCBO is, that's the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. So that's where you go to buy the wine or the other alcoholic thingies. I don't drink, so I used to drink a long time ago, but I don't drink anymore. But nonetheless, people are getting excited because Ottawa eliminated all federal exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. This is good. This is what was promised. It was promised by the July 1st. We didn't get it till July 2nd, though. But as of June 30th, Ottawa will remove all 53 remaining federal exemptions in the CFTA, which is a big move towards freer trade within Canada. Most of these exceptions were related to procurement, including for financial entities, land development, transportation services, and even space projects. And I don't understand why we would have a space project internally between different provinces. But hey, why not? Why not? Free Canadian space. Let's do it. Parts. So this is all part of a broader economic push. So as you guys know, Bill C5, Bill C5, which is the One Canada Economy Act, that one was also aimed at removing internal trade and labor mobility barriers. So together, these two steps, they're designed to cut that red tape, boost productivity, and build, a unified Canadian economy. It's about friggin' time. It is about friggin' time. So now at this point, the feds have done their part. So now the provinces and territories, they have agreed to review their own exceptions under the CFTA. And those results are going to be announced at a committee on internal trade. That's going to be on Tuesday, I think, the 8th. Yeah, July 8th. And just to give you a general idea. So in 2023, over $530 billion worth of goods and services moved between provinces. So that's about 20% of our GDP that we're moving around. This is big. These rules, we're going to knock that number up. We don't have the data yet, obviously, but that number is absolutely going to get knocked up. It's going to be good. Now, in addition to that, Ottawa is expanding mutual recognition projects in trucking to lower the costs and improve supply chains. And they're also rolling out a form of labor market ministers action plan to make it easier for workers to move between provinces. And that's all about certifications. Like, if you're a certified plumber in Nova Scotia, you should be able to use your skill in, well, in any part of Canada. Also with healthcare, and that's going to be another thing too. So, a Nova Scotia nurse will be able to work any part in Canada. It's all good. It's all good. The bottom line is that well, Ottawa is taking this is a historic step. I mean, whether you love or hate Carney, this is a step we like to see moving. Basically, the only thing the Conservatives would say about this is that, are we going far enough? Are we going far enough? And that we'll see. That we're definitely going to see. But as I said, it's a historic step to unify Canada's internal market by scrapping all of these stupid exemptions. I don't like exemptions. And pushing the provinces to do the same, laying the groundwork for smoother trade and labor mobility across Canada. Gotta love it. You gotta love it for sure. All right. Got the Nightbot, and we got, Rory. And yet C69 is still in place. Yes, I know. And I know a lot of you guys are not fans of C69. We'll have to see, especially, I think at this point, even if we're going to build new pipelines, by the time we get through this new regulation process, it's going to take 2 years. So I think the government's kind of sitting there saying, well, we don't really have to deal with C69 for at least 2 years. We'll see. We'll see how this all works out. I'd rather just see it gone, but we'll see. Chad says, did Circle K and 7-Eleven make a deal, or did it fall through again? Almost ready to sell it, Circle K. I have not heard anything recently. And it's interesting. Every time on the show, I say I have not heard anything recently. Then we get a news story within a week or two. So hopefully we'll find out pretty darn soon. But I haven't heard anything at all recently on this. Oh, boy. What can I say? All right. Well, we're slowly getting there. Actually, we got our last story, our last news story. And this, I alluded to this one earlier. So our first liquefied natural gas has, it has begun the trip from Canada to Asia. So on Monday, the Gaslo departed from Kitimat, BC with Canada's first shipment of, liquefied natural gas, so LNG, to Asia. So this marks a major milestone, nearly 7 years after construction began, and over a decade after LNG Canada first secured an export license in 2013. Look at these numbers. 2013, and it's like 2025. If the One Canada economy bill thing had been in place, this stuff would have been shipping to Asia a lot sooner than now. Oh boy. All right. So this, of course, it was a very massive infrastructure project. So phase one, which is what has been done up to now, it cost $48.3 billion. So at full capacity, we're looking at the possibility of 170 liquefied natural gas ships per year that can leave Kitimat for Asian markets. So that's huge. That is part of that whole diversifying away from U.S. markets. So yeah, we are diversifying trade and reducing global emissions, all in partnership with Indigenous peoples. That's what Mark Carney said about it. The BC Premier, he also is a big fan, stressed that the importance of reaching global markets and reducing reliance on the U.S. Now, there is under review the possibility of doubling the production that we currently have. So that would be phase two. And if we did that, we would double the capacity to basically 28 million tons annually. But there are some hurdles to getting to phase two, like meeting, greenhouse gas emission caps that are set from Ottawa as well as BC. Now, on the bright side, and I know when I was researching this, I found at least one group of persons saying, oh, the Indigenous folks are not liking this. Not exactly true. This one was built on Haisla Nation territory. So it basically was employing over 9,000 workers at peak construction back in 2023. And right now it's supporting 350 permanent jobs. Now, speaking of, speaking of Heisla, so the Heisla chief, Crystal Smith, called it a milestone for respective Indigenous engagement. So, I don't know what percentage of those 350 people are going to be Indigenous, but I imagine there'll be some in there. And I have a feeling they're going to get some kind of cut here. So it's not a bad thing at all. Now, the environmental groups, they're not as happy. So groups like the International Institute for Sustainable Development argue that more LNG is doubling down on volatile fossil fuels in a market that risks oversupply. Okay, well, if they're going to get it, if they don't get it from us, they're going to get it from someone else. And perhaps it won't be as clean as that Canadian natural gas. Just saying. Now, this here is a broad. There's a lot of people involved in this. Shell actually owns 40% of this project. And some of the other companies worldwide are like Petronas, PetroChina, Mitsubishi. There we go, Mitsubishi, and Kogas. Also, Coastal Gas Link by TC Energy. They are involved because they connect the gas fields to Kitimat. Now, there are other liquid nitrified gas projects in BC that are also still active. So they're all in that giant process. So they include wood fiber LNG, Cedar LNG, KSI Lisms LNG, and Tilbury LNG, and they're all within various stages of development or operation. Now, here's the funny thing: where they're already moving ahead. Well, as long as they're all past the a lot of the red tape stuff, the new bill probably wouldn't help them. But it'd be interesting to see if there's somebody sort of stuck in the middle of all that red tape, if the new bill will actually help them as well. That I don't know. I don't think it will unless they get added to that list. But basically, the bottom line: Canada's long-awaited liquid naturalized gas. Those exports to Asia have officially begun, marking that historic. I've said it before: historic diversification away from the U.S. The U.S. is probably not happy that we're doing this, but hey, it's too late. Now, with eyes on that potential expansion, this could really cement Canada as a natural global LNG supplier. Despite those emissions concerns and environmental scrutiny, I think we'll be fine. All right, before we close off the news, just want to quickly say next week, on Friday, we got jobs data dropping. In the US, not a lot. Earnings-wise, in Canada, we've got Aritzia and FTG, as I've been talking about. Down in the US, it's kind of a blue-collar week with earnings coming in from WD-40, Levi Strauss, and Delta Air. So what can I say? All right, guys, this is fantastic. We're finished the news. The news is done. Holy banana bread. All right, that means bye-bye, LNG ship. All right, Rory says, Candace, have you any interest in cargo jet domestic shipping? I heard it's doing quite well at the moment. I've looked at them before. I think I actually did a video a while back that had cargo jet in it, like a couple of years ago. I'm not super interested in them, but yeah, they're interesting. They're still interesting for sure. Let's see. Life's Adventures, Natural Gas, PSK Prairie Sky Royalty Limited. Thoughts? Prairie Sky Royalty. I do like them. Here we go. Now we have access to, let's see here, PSK. Bring up the good old Prairie Sky here. All right, I'm going to come back to the 3 years. So for the most part, they have been, they've been moving in the right direction. They've slumped a little bit lately, but nonetheless, I still like them. I still think they're a fantastic company. I'm a very big fan of royalty stocks. Now, one of the reasons that I love royalty stocks is that, well, there's not a lot of overkeep. You're buying royalties. so ownerships, and you're leasing it out. So you're basically getting this, you're getting income and you're not really doing much. So when you look at something like this, let's take a look here for a second. We're going to go to key data. And here we go. Look at this. Debt to equity ratio, 3%. Once again, there's no need for debt. It costs, basically the only expenses that you really have as this company is, other than, you pay for your staff. And, if you have an office, you pay for that. But the only other real expense is when you're adding, for example, more royalty stocks companies. If you're adding more royalties to your portfolio. So, for example, another company that I like as well, and this one here we've been talking about recently, a diversified royalty company. So this is Div. All right, now they're up at 323. Let's just go back here to last year. And you can see this huge explosion. Why? They bought. They bought. Was it Chewy Hut or Chubba Hut? I think it's called. They bought that royalty in the United States, and then they basically said, "Okay, continue running your company. Just pay us this chunk of money." For the royalties. And that's created extra cash flow for them. And it's responded well. They've actually, look at this, 323. This is absolutely fantastic. This is great. And once again, now, I mentioned that they normally don't have debt. We might have debt here this time. Why? Because, we do. Because they just bought. They just paid for a whole bunch of other royalties. So you can see their debt to equity ratio is up at 79%. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine, though. And this is just one of these little stocks I love. This is probably the closest to a penny stock I love. That I wouldn't call them that. They've been around for a long time, and they have. And keep in mind too, guys. Let me just go back one here. Here we go. Check out their dividend, 8.515%. So that's not too shabby at all. So definitely cool. Definitely cool. All right. The old Nightbot's back. The old Nightbot's back. Okay. Lindsay Doman says, "So happy I found this channel. I'm learning still and looking for a Canadian role model to follow." Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you're here. There's a ton of stuff on the channel, which is fantastic. And I do try to gear the channel the best I can towards helping out new folk, helping out new people who are just finding investing and trying to get their, get the ground under their feet. That would be the best words. So we got a lot of different things. I will say right now, take advantage of these live streams. This is the time to come in, and when you get questions, if there's things that you don't understand, that's a perfect time. Bring them with you to a live stream with some new people. And I've had a few people in the community before. I've told them, I said, look, during the week, if you got questions that are non-urgent, just write them on a note, on your note app or whatever it is called. It's called, I think it's called Note on mine. Mine is, or Notes. I've got an Apple, so for mine, it's just simply Notes. Write it on it, bring it with you. If you come in, even if you have 6 questions and you pepper them through the show, that's fine. Heck, if nobody's talking, you can even pepper them all in a row. That would be absolutely cool as well. Now, other options, though. There are other options. And one of these is, I'll give it to you right now. Let me see here. All right, here we go. We'll get the Nightbot to work for us. So we have a Discord community. And over on the Discord community, it's fairly active. You can go in there. You can type out your questions. And is the Nightbot not giving us our link? Oh, there it comes. All right. Nightbot was sleeping. Over on the Discord, you can go in there. Now, this is what I'm going to say. if you pose a question over there, everybody will, anybody can come along and help you. But if you really want, if you really want me to take a look at your question, then just make sure you, what's the word for it? You call me out. So I think you just have to put at Candace, or is it at Mountain Finance? At Mountain Finance, I think, whatever my ticker is over there, just do that. That way there, I get a notification. And then I'm like, oh, somebody asked me a direct question over at the Discord. And then I try to do my best to get over there sooner than later. So that would be kind of cool. All right. Success. All right. Fantastic. I love it. Let's see. Doorpat says, do you guys hear about the new tax cuts? 1% reduction. Yeah, I think that's isn't that with the middle, sort of the middle tax brackets, one of the campaign provinces that the Liberals have had. Now, I have been reading some stuff as well that there's a couple of financial groups. There's a couple of financial groups that have been urging the government to do a few things. One of them has been to raise taxes, particularly the GST. And this is all about paying for those military commitments to get our GDP up to, our NATO defense spending up to 5% of GDP. So it's interesting. I'm hoping the government ignores that. I don't particularly want to pay more taxes, but they were talking about it. They were definitely talking about it. So that is one thing I hope we don't see. I hope we don't see. All right, guys, we're at about an hour, 36 minutes. If you got your last minute questions, get them on in there so I can answer them. Doesn't mean we're leaving right away, because sometimes I'll give this and you guys throw enough questions at me that you keep me going for another 30 minutes, 40 minutes. There's been a couple times where you've kept me going for about an hour. Now, I do want to point out, we do have a new thing coming up here. So on the 17th, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, I'll mention it once again. On the 17th, we are going to do a This Week Conversations. It's going to be 1 hour live stream, 4 p.m. Eastern till 5 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be, it's going to be a one-on-one interview. I'll be interviewing Brandon Beavis. Brandon Beavis will be with us for an hour. So we will talk to Brandon about everything ETFs and probably his investing journey and Blossom. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great show, but it is going to be just an hour. So that'll be one of those ones where we're going to get everything squeezed down into that hour. Depending on how many folks show up, that might be one of those times where you might want to use a super if you got a question that you want absolutely answered. I'll do my darndest. To try to grab questions. But sometimes when you got a guest, it's a lot harder. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes for sure. And video wise this week, Tuesday's video, it's part 2 of stable income ETFs. So we got 5 more. We had 5 of them last Tuesday. We got 5 of them this Tuesday. Was it last Tuesday? Well, whatever the last one was. It was either last Tuesday or just before that. And then I'm going to do something kind of different. I'm going to actually take all 10 of them at the end of this video that's coming out, and I'll rank them all together. I'll rank them all together in one spot for you. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That will be Tuesday. Now, if you are a channel member, holy banana bread, it means you get to see the video a day early. So you'll be able to see that tomorrow. So just something to keep in mind, something to watch out for. I think next Friday we actually will have a deep dive. It feels like a long time, but I think we will have a deep dive. And of course, we will be back here on Wednesday for the market close. So you gotta love that. I know, was it last week or the week? I think it was the week before last. We did a market open. I actually really enjoyed that. So I do want to before July is done, I want to get another market open in there as well because those are just so much fun. All right, let's see what we got here. Life's Adventures. Thoughts on the new AMD ETF, a cheaper way to include AMD in portfolio, AMDY, Harvest AMD Enhanced High Income Shares. Okay. So I do like those Harvest ETFs. I think it's a fantastic line. So one of the things I'll just mention is that, yeah, I think AMD, I think tech overall, like I'm pretty bullish on tech. We could now, depending on what the economy does, and this is the thing. It's sometimes hard to predict things under Trump, but as long as things stay strong, I think that one's going to be good. Now, I think income-wise, even if we get a retracement in tech, I think it will still be fine because of just covered calls, all of that fun stuff. I think that will be good. Now, if you already have HHIS, that's their sort of Harvest one that basically has all of them together. I don't know if they've added AMD to it yet, but they will. They tend to, that's kind of the goal of HHIS, is just give you a taste of everything right across the board. So, if you're thinking, oh, I want access, I want exposure to AMD, and you're already holding a whole bunch of HHIS, well, then you probably already do have exposure. So that's not a bad thing at all. That's a good thing going forward for sure. All right, guys. Holy banana bread! No last minute questions. Well, other than life always has a question for us. You guys have been absolutely awesome. You guys, best community on YouTube for sure. And I can't wait till the next show. So we will see you guys live, of course, again on Wednesday. And oh boy, that's going to be the day that we might be buying the dip. We might be buying the dip on Wednesday. So until then, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If it's hot, if it is hot, then let's all enjoy a barbecue or something, or at least make yourself a cold iced coffee. Nothing like it. All right, guys. Until then, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.